How does a man who once moved the culture now find himself fighting just to move through a prison corridor safely? For years, Sean Diddy Combs was synonymous with dominance. He didn't just participate in the music industry, he engineered parts of it. Deals were built around him, artists launched through him, brands aligned with him. But now, court filings paint a very different picture. Panic attacks, alleged threats inside prison, an urgent appeal for release, a rumored presidential pardon that never came, and hovering over all of it, a documentary from longtime rival 50 Cent that reignited public scrutiny at a critical moment. At first glance, this looks like a standard post-conviction appeal, but it's not just legal. It's psychological, it's political, it's cultural. And the deeper you look, the more this case feels like a turning point, not just for Diddy, but for the way power operates in entertainment. Let's ground this in confirmed facts. Diddy is currently serving a 50-month federal sentence after being convicted on transportation-related charges tied to unlawful conduct. During trial, he was acquitted of more severe racketeering-related counts. However, the judge imposed a sentence of just over 4 years. This week, his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, formally filed an appeal requesting either immediate release or a resentencing. The core argument centers on proportionality. His legal team claims the sentence was influenced by allegations tied to charges that did not result in conviction. In addition to sentencing concerns, court documents reference hardship behind bars. Media reports describe alleged panic episodes, particularly during the holiday period. A source close to him characterized the experience as emotionally destabilizing, saying he relied heavily on meditation techniques to manage anxiety. There have also been reports, discussed in court and media, that Diddy has faced threats from other inmates. Legal representatives acknowledge that high-profile individuals can become targets inside federal facilities due to visibility, wealth perception, or notoriety. Initially assigned to work in the laundry unit, Diddy later transitioned to a position in the prison library as part of a structured rehabilitation and life skills program. According to reports, the change followed concerns about feeling unsafe in his original assignment. But the legal tension didn't stop there. Around the time of sentencing, speculation emerged that Diddy might seek executive clemency. Reports indicated that a request for a presidential pardon had been submitted. Later statements suggested that the request would not move forward. Then came the documentary. 50 Cent released a project examining Diddy's legal controversies and past industry conflicts. Though separate from court proceedings, its timing amplified public attention. Social media commentary intensified, rivalries resurfaced. During appeal discussions, prosecutors referenced recorded prison phone calls, standard monitoring practice in federal facilities. Portions were reportedly cited to argue that Diddy had not demonstrated full acceptance of responsibility. His legal team disputes that interpretation and maintains his right to communication within institutional rules. The appeal now awaits review. If granted, it could reduce his sentence or lead to resentencing. If denied, he continues serving time, while facing more than 100 pending civil lawsuits. And that's where the story widens. Public response has fractured sharply. Supporters argue that acquittals matter. They stress that sentencing should reflect convictions, not broader narratives shaped by media coverage. For them, reports of mental strain humanize the situation. They see a once powerful figure confronting a reality shift that would challenge anyone. Critics see something else. They argue that high-profile defendants often benefit from extensive legal resources and public sympathy unavailable to ordinary individuals. To them, prison hardship is not exceptional. It is inherent to incarceration. Then there are observers focused on symbolism. For this group, Diddy's incarceration represents a cultural recalibration. The idea that a mogul who once projected invincibility now operates within strict institutional boundaries challenges long-held assumptions about celebrity insulation. The documentary release deepened that divide. Some viewed it as strategic timing by 50 Cent. Others saw it as independent creative expression unrelated to the appeal. Social media discussions also revived conversations around historic hip-hop tragedies involving Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G. Legal experts emphasize that no new criminal charges have been filed against Diddy in connection with those decades-old cases. Still, the renewed attention demonstrates how quickly public narratives expand beyond the immediate facts. And then there's the political conversation. The rumored pardon sparked debate about executive power, celebrity influence, and optics. Even the perception of potential clemency can shift expectations, inside prison and in the court of public opinion. But here's where it becomes layered. This situation sits at the intersection of law, psychology, industry economics, and narrative warfare. Legally, appeals are not retrials. They focus on procedural fairness and sentencing integrity. Appellate courts examine whether judges relied on permissible factors and whether legal standards were applied correctly. Overturning a sentence requires clear grounds. The defense appears to argue that acquittals should have weighed more heavily during sentencing. However, federal judges often consider broader conduct context within established guidelines. The success of this appeal will likely depend on technical legal arguments rather than emotional appeals. Psychologically, the adjustment from celebrity autonomy to institutional confinement is profound. Federal prison life operates on rigid schedules, limited communication, and hierarchical dynamics. Fame inside that environment can become a liability. Visibility attracts attention, both protective and predatory. Reports that Diddy felt unsafe in certain work assignments align with broader patterns involving high-profile inmates. Transfers to structured programs like library or faith-based initiatives are common when administrators aim to stabilize placement. Then there's the reputational battlefield. The release of 50 Cent's documentary didn't alter court filings, but it influenced public discourse. In high-profile cases, perception shapes brand relationships, investor confidence, and long-term earning potential. Media narratives often outlive legal rulings. This dynamic becomes even more complex when rivalries are involved. Diddy and 50 Cent have exchanged public criticism for years. When one releases content during the other's legal turmoil, audiences inevitably question motive. The rumored pardon storyline added a political dimension. Executive clemency discussions are not uncommon for high-profile cases, but they rarely succeed without strong institutional backing. When reports later indicated the request would not proceed, it reinforced perceptions that Diddy would serve his sentence in full. Financially, the pending civil lawsuits represent sustained exposure. Even if criminal sentencing remains unchanged, civil litigation can extend for years. Settlements, legal fees, and reputational damage can impact business holdings. Historically, celebrity legal crises often evolve into legacy-defining chapters. Some figures rebuild through rebranding and strategic philanthropy. Others see permanent brand erosion. The outcome depends on legal clarity, public sentiment shifts, and sustained narrative control. The renewed discussion of historic hip-hop cases underscores how unresolved cultural trauma resurfaces during high-profile legal moments. While speculation circulates online, legal standards for reopening decades-old cases require substantial corroborated evidence. Industry observers are watching closely. If a figure of this stature faces sustained consequences, it signals evolving accountability standards. At the same time, critics caution against extrapolating one case into a blanket indictment of an entire industry. And through all of this, one question lingers. Is this about justice, narrative, or power recalibration? Right now, Diddy's future hinges on appellate review. If the court grants relief, the narrative shifts towards redemption and recalibration. If it denies relief, the focus turns to endurance and whether he can navigate extended confinement while managing civil exposure and public scrutiny. The documentary tension with 50 Cent continues shaping conversation. The political pardon rumor has cooled. The historic case discussions remain speculative. The lawsuits loom. That beyond the legal filings and headlines lies something deeper. A man who once symbolized influence is now confronting institutional limits. Does influence still operate behind bars? Can reputation survive sustained scrutiny? And if the appeal fails, what does rebuilding even look like? This story isn't just unfolding in courtrooms, it's unfolding in culture. What do you think happens next?